in the modern times of social media, can we legitimately require an applicant or a proposer of a private bill to post their intention and their proposal on their website? Is it an assumption that in 2026 everybody has a website upon which to post? And how do you deal with the fact that many of the newspapers, traditional newspapers, that could be taken to have a island-wide coverage, many of those newspapers, as our friends from Karamak will tell us, are increasingly selling less copies of the sheet and more moving more towards getting coverage and outreach on the social media. So what we had done on the last occasion is to ask Legislative Counsel, Ms. Jimenez, to prepare a document for our consideration. And that document is before you. I take it you have a copy of it. So Bernard, you have a copy? Scott Motley? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is just ask Ms. Jimenez to take us through the document. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pleasant morning, all members of the committee. So, as indicated by the chairman, we last left our deliberations at Standing Order 82, and the issue that we had to rectify is whether the promoters of the private bill would be required to only make a publication in a newspaper circulating in the island, or if it is that we should be advancing with the times and permit them other means of publication, such as digital access. To this end, in our discussion, we had to reconcile two things. One, what is the historical or the known position of publication of private bills being in a newspaper and a gazette, and reconciling that with digital and modern technology. To this end, we had determined that it would not be entirely appropriate at this stage that we're at in Standing Order 82.3 for such a publication of the bill or the proposed bill to be placed on the Parliament's website, because we are not yet at the juncture where it is that the Parliament is to assume responsibility of the bill, and this would be in the domain of the promoter to ensure that notice is adequately given to all affected and relevant parties. With that said, a redraft is proposed, and for the memorandum that you're seeing before you, I take your attention to pages 3 and 4 of the document. And I must begin by apologizing. I believe that the copies before the members today are not printed in color. So that which would have been inserted in red, you'd not have it visibly, but I will walk you through, and it is also to be shared via email, so you should have it there.
Some members go to page 3, and you're going to indicate, welcome, Ms. Lowe. You just snuck in or you were there for a while. You're going to just show us where it should be highlighted, which would be an insert, right?
Indeed. So starting at subsection 3, it reads, a private bill shall be introduced by a member only upon A, a petition from the promoters stating the objects and reasons for the bill, and B, the entirety of B is now redrafted. And it reads, receipt of proof to the satisfaction of the clerk that adequate notice of the intention to introduce the bill has been provided has been given, rather, in accordance with this standing order. Subsection 4, it's an entire redraft. It reads, for the purpose of this standing order, notice shall be regarded as adequate where A, there are at least 3 consecutive publications of the bill in the Gazette, and B, it is disseminated in such a manner as is reasonably calculated to bring the proposed bill to the attention of persons whose rights or interests may be directly affected, including through at least one medium of public communication circulating in Jamaica. I pause here.
Yes, I was going to say, pause here and let us decide on that. I actually like this.
Right. The idea behind it is to not be restrictive, in that I contemplated well that even though, yes, we are in a digital era, some organizations are not yet there. And having regard to that nuance, I found it challenging to impose that they are to post it on their website when they perhaps might not have one. I found that to be restrictive. Using a language that would otherwise permit them greater opportunity to use various medium, including the newspaper, if that is their election, I found was most prudent, and for that reason, I did the draft in this way. I contemplated also the issue, like for example, the civil procedure rules for the Supreme Court.
Sorry, and what you do, you place an onus on the clerk, really, to make a determination if the steps that have been taken are adequate.
Indeed.
So you give the clerk. Well, let me tell you, members, this is something that I would have drafted myself, had I thought of it. But I like that. So you give it what you really, and you say it in accordance, satisfaction of the clerk. So I like that.
Right. So the aim behind that is to not lose the idea or the intention behind the issuing of the notice in the first place, or the publication in the first place, which is to bring it to the wider attention of persons who may be affected by the publication of the bill, or the publication of the petition, rather.
I have some comments on this, please, because if we are in agreement, we can just move on.
I quite liking it myself, but the word in
Speak into the mic.
Disseminate, which speaks to circulating within Jamaica, as against what is in the existing standing orders that speak to circulating
in the island.
Because my reading of circulating the island seems to be broader, but I could interpret within to be a bit narrower than that.
Narrow. Okay, if it is that the members, I do not take any issue with amending that section by reframing it to state circulating in the island or within the island of Jamaica. Would that be? Would that
is how it
capture
is
the
normally
concern?
used, because you want that gives the impression that it goes right across the island of Jamaica, as against probably in some particular local.
Within the island of Jamaica. I thank you for the contribution. I've made the error. I've made the amendment in the working document.
And we don't have to make it any more clearer where it says reasonably calculated, because that would take us back to 3B.
Right.
Because the reasonably calculated would be in relation to the satisfaction of the clerk.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. That is indeed it.
So with just that suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? Okay. Okay, so I take that as an approval.
Grateful.
So go ahead, please. Continue.
So it continues now by stating, and we're now at subsection 5, the notice referred in Standing Order 82.3 shall A, state the objects and reasons of the bill, and B, specify the manner and the period within which any person whose rights or interests may be affected may lodge a petition or objection to the bill. Now, this is also a complete redraft. I have inserted it for clarity because this is already a part of the process, but it is not captured in our standing orders. Right.
Question is, Chairman, why was it necessary to make this insertion for clarity?
Because the ultimate one, the first position is that this is an ordinary part of the process that has not been expressly captured in our standing orders, and I found that it would be necessary to give guidance to those who are not completely au fait with the process by convention.
Chairman, it's an important part because we find that there are a number of... let me wait for the exchange. Yes, Chairman, it's an important insertion. Why? There are a number of parts of our practices that has never been highlighted, and we would have seen that before. And so this insertion is, in my mind, very important to state for the records within the standing orders those quote-unquote hidden practices. And one of the things I'd urge is for us to look back when we're going through the entire standing orders again, to look back at those hidden practices that are best practices but are not covered anywhere in the standing orders. So this is a very important insertion.
Thank you, Senator Gill. Continue.
Thank you. So then it continues now to subsection 6. It states the promoters shall provide the clerk with such evidence, provide to the clerk such evidence of publication and dissemination as the clerk may require, and the clerk shall certify whether the requirements of Standing Order 82.3 have been satisfied. This insertion was necessary because we have now placed an obligation on the part of the clerk to ensure the adequacy of the notice of the publication. So this is just to advise those promoters what it is that the remit of the clerk is, and that they must, as part of the process, facilitate proof of any documents that the clerk may so require to satisfy her that adequate notice has been given. Subsection 7, upon the lodging of the petition, the clerk shall cause the notice referred to in Standing Order 82.3, and where practicable, a copy of the bill to be published on the official website of the Parliament as soon as reasonably practicable. Now, this insertion was geared at capturing the initial contemplation of the members of the committee to ensure that the public is also aware of the bill as soon as it is tabled in Parliament and it is now within our domain. It allows the public greater access to the information. So if for any reason in the initial phase or the pre-introduction phase, they did not have wind or get wind of this particular bill, they would certainly get knowledge of it by our website. This is a current feature as indicated in our previous meeting. We do have on our website the publication of private bills. So this is not contrary to our current practice. But again, this is something not stated definitively in our standing orders and is just something that happens in practice.
Yes, Senator Bernard.
When I had
had my microphone open from
Your microphone? Yes. It's on?
I want to go back. Go back to 6.
Okay.
Just to clarify, as was outlined earlier by Senator Sinclair, that point unreasonably calculated
Right.
would fall under the purview of the clerk as outlined in 3.
Indeed.
Right. So when we come down to 6, should we not have standing orders 82.3 and 4? As opposed to 82.3 has been satisfied?
I take the point.
Yes.
Indeed. That would give greater clarity to the redraft.
Right.
I agree. But it would be up to the members to concur.
Any? All right, so that is for your consideration. The comment from Senator Bernard. All right. And just to, so there's no other comment in relation to what is being proposed by Senator Bernard. Technical team does not have any issue with the suggestion. All right. So we can make a note of that and we move on. And just to make it clear, in 7, the only thing that the clerk is mandated to do is to ensure that the notice is put on the website.
The notice and where practicable.
And
a
where
copy of the
practicable.
bill.
So, yes. All right. Just making a distinction between the two.
Indeed.
All right. So, you want to comment?
Take note of the use of the term twice, where practicable.
Yes.
That allows some level of flexibility
Yes.
and it's not burdensome on the Parliament.
That is correct. So I just wanted to make that absolutely clear to the membership and the persons who may be listening in. All right, continue.
Subsection
Madam
8.
Jimenez.
Subsection 8. The petition shall be presented by being lodged with the clerk together with a certificate of the clerk issued under Standing Order 82.6 and shall be read at the first sitting of the Senate after it is so lodged, and thereupon the President shall put the question that the promoters be allowed to proceed. Now, this particular subsection, it is the current subsection 4 in the original standing orders. The only insert in that redraft is the end to the end of the first line that says, together with the certificate of the clerk issued under Standing Orders 82.6. And that is to bring some connectivity because we have made mention that there is now the need for a certificate to be issued as part of the process. And with that said, we continue to Standing Order 82.
So in the original 4, it's presented, it's a presentation, a statement.
Right.
But the certification now is a validation that is, let me use the term, laid on the table, presented in its format to be as a visual. Correct?
That's correct, but also to the end that the certificate is to ensure that there is adequacy of notice. So it will not come to the attention of the Senate unless or until we are certain that adequate notice or adequate publication has taken place. Right.
All right.
Continue.
So now to subsection 9. This is your current subsection 5. The only insert is in the first line that says within 3 months. So I will read. When leave to proceed has been granted, the promoters shall, within 3 months of the grant of such leave, lodge with the clerk 2 copies of the bill, B, a sum of money sufficient in the opinion of the clerk to defray the expenses of the printing of the bill or such portion of such expenses as the clerk may determine, and C, duly executed bond satisfactory to the clerk for the payment of any additional expenses for such printing. So this is your current standing order, subsection 5, 82.5. Now, subsection 10, it reads, the clerk shall cause the bill lodged with him to be printed as early as possible, and at the first ordinary sitting of the Senate after the printing is completed, the President, if satisfied, and this is a new insert, on the basis of the certificate of the clerk that the requirements of Standing Orders 82.3 have been complied with, and it continues, shall put the question that the bill be read a first time, upon which no discussion shall be allowed. This is the current Standing Order 5B. But I have inserted again, just to reconcile our new process or the new obligation for the certification that it meets the requirements of Standing Orders 82.3.
Senator Scott Motley.
Wondering if in 9B there is too much latitude. So it says that a sum of money sufficient in the opinion of the clerk, I know it's the original, right, to defray the expenses of the printing of the bill or such proportion of such expenses as the clerk may determine. And it seems to me that there should be a little bit more certainty about what the promoter will be required to do. Because the clerk can say, according to what I'm reading, that, okay, you pay this amount. This is the expense. You pay this amount. Not that they need to find out how much it's going to cost, but they just give an opinion. And I don't think that if we're going to a level of, real transparency and accountability, that we should do that.
So their proposal...
I don't really... I'm proposing that it must be more clear as to exactly what the expenses are. There's too much discretion, in my view, on the part of the clerk.
Okay.
And it suggests that, for example, if it's a bill that... Madam Clerk, I'm not referring to you. Let me make it absolutely clear. If there's, for example, a bill that she supports and she wants it to go through, yes, she could say, all right, you just pay 10% because I'm supportive of this. Whereas with somebody else, it could be, no, you have to pay. Motley,
you're an attorney of long standing, right? So just tell us the proposal, because just listening to you, I can just easily redraft that particular section.
Well, the sum of money required to
defray the expenses of the printing of the bill.
Required to defray the expenses.
Full stop.
Yes.
You see how simple it is?
Because you
forced
me to have to think about it when I'm relying on the technical team to think about it. But it's just simply a sum of money to free.
Let us hear from Senator Bernard, who is not legally trained.
I was just going to ask, how has it been implemented in practice in the past, and that could help us. I was going to ask, how has this standing order been implemented in the past, if persons know this aspect of it, and that would have helped us to clarify. But it was clarified, and so I'm fine.
So you're good?
I'm good.
All right. Other members, you heard the proposal from Senator Scott Motley. You agree to tighten up that particular 9B? Madam Clerk, I'm going to hear from the clerk specifically in relation to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to members of the committee. So I am in full agreement with the concerns, because I had the concern even before this review and take the points. However, perhaps it could be worded, I don't have the words just yet, to state that a receipt perhaps should be provided at some point in time of the process, because the billing would come from Jamaica Printing Office. We do not determine the cost here, and again, they have their system to implement prices. So perhaps we could even get a purchase order or something from them outlining what the cost would be and present that to the promoters, or some other arrangements where the promoters themselves could make direct payments to Jamaica Printing Office, because that's where the payment would go eventually, or has to be made in order for the bills to be printed.
But Madam Clerk, I think that is more procedural. I think that is an internal, how you will handle it internally is different from putting the requirement in the standing order. I agree with you. We have really talked through how you would handle it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, but I don't think that we would need to go any further in the standing orders as to setting out the different steps.
So we would agree to the point that such sum as may be determined by the clerk as necessary to defray the cost. Would that be?
I think
a sum of money to defray the expenses of printing the bill. Get how you get the cost, because you will be getting the cost from the printing office, and you will inform them this is the expense in printing, and that is what has to be paid to your office. All right?
All right.
So that is basically what you're saying. The procedure as to how you get there is a different issue. That is internal workings that don't need to be stated in the bill, in the standing orders. And I agree with you on that. And I don't think the other members have any objection to the proposed amendment coming from Senator Scott Motley, and so that will be taken into account and as we move on. I am going to...
I'd just like to ask,
yes,
Mr. Chair, just for clarity, the part of subsection 9B which states or such proportion of such expenses as the clerk may determine, we're also removing that line.
That is correct.
That is correct.
All right, and on the instructions of the substantive president, we are now at 9:59. We're going to pause at this moment because he wishes to have the Senate sitting commence at the earliest possible time, closest to 10 o'clock. So I'm going to ask for an adjournment of the Standing Orders Committee, and we will have, when we next meet, 10 and 11. We'll go to 10 and 11. And in the meanwhile, Mr. Menez, you can do the other amendments. So, or we can just leave it until that time. Yeah. Oh, yes. All right. Okay, thank you, members. Motion for adjournment, please. Senator Christian Tavares Finson, seconded by Senator Bernard. Thank you very much. The Standing Order Committee stands adjourned.